Well, I don't have a ton of battery left on my phone, but I'm going to try to take a short video here. Out here working on our Fearless Leader Matt's 67 Super 12. I pulled the grill off and the hood off so I could get to the front of the engine. I originally was going to replace the fuel pump, but the one I had was incorrect. It had a different arm on it, and I don't think the diaphragm in that one was good anyway, so I put a block-off plate on the engine. Nice custom Cranky Motorsports there. I'm going to probably replace this fuel line because that's not even a reinforced fuel line. That's just like a piece of rubber washer hose or something. And this shutoff valve's in the wrong way. You can see the arrow's supposed to point that away. Probably won't matter too much, but I'm just gonna, make sure everything's nice and tight. The carburetor needed a little adjustment. I think it was too rich. When you throttle it up, it chugs a little bit before it starts idling better. The air cleaner's a little bit loose and stuff, so whoever put that carb on really didn't, take the time to do it correctly. Needs a drive belt, so I'm gonna work on that. I stuck a shusher on it because I had one, and that's Matt's favorite muffler. It's not in the best of shape. It's a little bit rusty, but it doesn't have any rot holes in it, so that one should be good to go. So yeah, I got to take this guy off and take the belt off. I mean, this belt it might even be a 1/2 inch belt instead of a 5/8, but it's really burnt, you can see. So take that off, change the belt. I have a pan seat I'm going to stick on it, and then I got to start looking at this horrendous wiring. I mean, for those of you learning how to work on tractors, everything about this is the complete wrong way to do it. Everything about this is wrong. It's horrible, absolutely horrible. So I'm going to try to do a little bit of work to make this thing right. It actually has the right ignition switch down there. Down there has the right ignition switch, but maybe it burned up. I don't know. They put a starter solenoid in it, which is okay, but they didn't fix the rest of the wiring, so the charging system doesn't work. It's just a mess. So I'm gonna pull all the wiring out, probably rewire it from scratch. All the wires from the voltage regulator, which, as you know, is down there. Not really the easiest thing to get at, so we'll see how far I take it, but I would like to get it wired up pretty well. I have a new taillight for it somewhere I gotta dig out and put on there so it has the correct taillight. So I'm gonna get at it, and I'll come back in a little while. So I said it needs a new drive belt. I would say so. That is not long for the world. The nice thing about it, when they're like this, where'd my cutters go? And I'll take my cutters back. Little Fast and the Furious 3 reference. No, that was 2. Was that 3? I don't remember. But when they're like this, you can just snip, and then they're done. And it's easier to take them off. Not always easier to put them back on, but easy to get them off when they're like that. Get it off the engine. There we go. Perfect. Mint. Good for another 1/2 mile. All right, one less thing in the way. Got a new Idler Pulley on it. A little noisy, but it works. Well, here's a progress check. It's about an hour and a half later, I think. Not exactly sure because it's cloudy. I have repaired or replaced just about everything that was bad in here. So the wiring on the starter switch, I don't know why. The starter switch seems to be okay. I squirted some WD-40 in there because it wasn't springing back. Now it works as it should. So I think the starter switch is fine. I got all the wiring figured out from the starter switch. I replaced a couple of wires. One that goes to the starter solenoid, the purple one, which is the kill wire, that one was all messed up. And then I reused what was still good. This is my battery cable. Doesn't need a super heavy gauge one going to the switch now because I have a starter solenoid in here. So that takes the brunt of the power. My camera's all dirty. So that takes the brunt of the power, the starter solenoid. Why is it not focusing? There we go. So the starter solenoid takes the brunt of the power, so the switch doesn't need a whole lot of juice going through it. So this is a 10 gauge cable instead of a 4 gauge or whatever it was before. I replaced the positive battery cable with this one because it was all messed up. The taillight wiring, which is this orange one here, I replaced that. I replaced the wiring going to the light switch and going down to the voltage regulator for the L terminal for the lights. All the rest of the wires look pretty good. I checked them all out. There's no other splits in them. Again, this purple wire, that's the new kill wire. This is my headlight wire. The starter generator, I'm fairly certain has been rebuilt because these studs are like brand new and it's nice and tight and it's been repainted. So I think the starter generator's been rebuilt. So now all the wires in here look good. I got to put the starter generator back in, and then I can start, you know, tweaking the carburetor a little bit. I'm not going to do too much to the carb. I'll put a new belt on it. I'll put a new starter generator belt on it because this, for one, it's quite cracked. As you can see, the cracks. But I also don't like cogged belts on this. I like solid belts because they get a little bit more grip on the starter solenoid or the starter generator as it is. And yeah, I mean, it's really coming along. It wasn't nearly as bad as I thought originally. It did have some wacky stuff going on, but I think it's going to be okay. Got the new taillight on. It's not the correct one because the only one that I had that was correct for this, the internals where the light bulb goes in was completely destroyed. So this is actually off like an SS16, but it's the same size, just a little bit bigger, maybe like a ½ an inch bigger. But this one I think works. So that'll take care of that. And then I got to put the ignition switch back in, throw a battery in it and see if it starts up and runs. And if it does, then I'll start putting the belt and the other stuff back on. I might have this all done today. I'm actually pleasantly surprised it wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. You know, every once in a while I get into these projects and I forget that there's still only like 5 or 6 wires on the tractor. I mean, some of them get extended out the front and out the back, but there's not much to these. So if anybody gets discouraged working on these, just know there are free manuals at SearsTractorManuals.com. They're really easy to work on. You just got to know what to take off to get to the wiring and stuff inside. You can see I had to take the starter generator out of here to be able to get access to the voltage regulator. And yeah, I mean, it's really not that bad. I'm gonna wipe off the front of the frame here before I put everything back on, the grill and stuff, but I just wanted to make sure that I got all that stuff in the front of the engine fixed before I put everything back on. I don't know if this is the original motor or not. It could be. I know 67 and 68 were kind of transitional years when it comes to what had points and what didn't have points. I can't really tell if this engine's been repainted. It might be original because you can kind of see, you know, the nice blue in there. You can kind of see this looks like it's still the original metallic paint. Obviously the shroud and the air cleaner have been repainted, but there still looks to be some original jade mist in there. So I don't know if the engine was replaced or not. It's definitely not a points motor. So this is a, you know, an in-between year motor because it has the smaller oil pan. You can see it doesn't have that big oil pan on the bottom where the bolts go up from the bottom. So this is a probably 68 or early 69 motor if I'm guessing, and the only reason I say it might be a 69 is the only year that I knew that had a fuel pump in it. I've had 2 of them. Both of them I think were 69s, and I think I got rid of both of them. The last one I had was that 67 Super 12 Special, or the 68 Super 12 Special that I built. That had a 69 motor in it, and it had a fuel pump on it, so it's coming along. Well, the shusher's doing its job and shushing it. This is actually the first one I've ever seen that really worked. I think all the other ones I've had, the baffles have been burned out in them. But it is quiet, really quiet. There's no oil leak anymore, which is good. It was wet from before, I should have wiped it, but there's no oil leak out the front there. New starter generator belt. I got to tighten it up a tiny bit because it was slipping a little bit. I think the charging system works now. Goes up to like, I don't know, 5 amps. I think it's working. I can't really tell, but I mean, it really only needs, it goes up to charging when it needs it, so if the battery's full, it doesn't charge. but it does seem to be fluctuating, so I think it's working. The taillight doesn't work yet. I don't know if the bulb's bad or what, but I gotta work on that still. But man, this thing runs good. It is quiet. Super quiet. It's getting there. At least the ignition works now. You know, sometimes when you work on these old tractors, you never really know what you're gonna find. This is the belt guard. And there's actually a hole below the fender in the frame to take this upper bolt out. But instead, the last time somebody took it off, and I can't get it to focus well. Let me go up against my garage. So the last time somebody took this thing off, they cut a slot in it and slid it up in place and then put the bottom bolt in. These things are stupid simple to put together. You use a short extension and a short 1/2-inch socket. You put the bolt in the socket, stick it through the hole in the frame, put it into this hole, tighten the top one up, and then reach under the frame and put this one in the bottom. It's so simple. This is just hack and bashery, and I hate it. Well, here it is. Running really good. New drive belt, new starter belt. Fixed all the wiring. Changed the rear light bulb so the lights work. I think the charging system works. Seems to go up. It goes down. Yeah, the charging system seems to work. Taillight works. Muffler sounds great. Headlights work. That's a little bit bent, but I'll fix it. The belt guard back on. Ignition switch works as it should. Charging system works. I haven't tried the cigarette lighter yet. I should. I made sure it popped in, so. I know it's hooked up correctly. Hey! Wow! Even the cigarette lighter works. Amazing! I am stoked. The only thing I really got left to do is the seat. And I mean, there's not much else to do on it. I'll probably do an oil change on it, but I am super happy with this thing. It runs really good. The other thing I did, I was going to shut it off, but well, I suppose I can. So the lights don't work when it's not running, obviously, but I changed the air cleaner around. 2 reasons. One, the choke cable broke, so I had to replace the choke cable, and I didn't have a whole cable that fit, so I only replaced the inner part of it. But I got the choke and everything working properly. I got the carburetor adjusted properly. The air cleaner used to sit on top, and because this carburetor is a little bit smaller than the LME carbs, it was rubbing on this, so there's actually a big notch cut in the bottom of the air cleaner. But what I did was cut the bracket off the back of it, which was already hacked up because it didn't quite fit on this carburetor anyway. And I bolted the air cleaner directly on the front of the carburetor. So now it sits in front, and it changed the airflow a little bit, so I retweaked the carburetor to get it to work right. Man, that shusher muffler is quiet. I am so stoked with how good this thing runs and how good it sounds. I mean, I hate to say it, but Matt, if it turns out that I can't end up getting this to you somehow, I'll gladly pay you what you paid for it. But we can talk about that. I'd rather you have it. It's your tractor, so I'd rather you have it, but it's going really good. There's a little ding in the front of the hood I'm going to try to fix a little bit, but this thing is super sweet.